Here in Ephesians, there are two things that define a mature man. The first is the unity of their faith, and second, their knowledge of Christ. Our focus here is on our maturity. Growth and maturity is an expectation for every believer. It is not an option. We must all attain to it. Hebrews contains several warnings about failing to press on to the maturity in Christ. A sign of failing to mature involves dead works and failing to focus on God. We must crucify self daily. It's a daily activity. If we don't, self exalts itself and we drift away. Our salvation is our greatest treasure, yet the wrath of God comes against all unrighteousness. How shall we escape His wrath if we neglect His salvation from His wrath? As a follower of Christ, we follow the example of Christ. We crucify our flesh daily. This requires a daily focus on God. Those who neglect their salvation do not crucify their flesh in following after Christ, but they crucify to themselves the Son of God. Notice that they do not crucify their own flesh to die, but they crucify Christ so that their flesh may live. There is a daily need to crucify the self. We must be attentive to the voice of the Spirit of God daily. If we don't crucify ourselves, we will stray and not be able to enter His rest. When scriptures speak of maturity, it's also speaking of the following the Spirit of God, or producing the fruit of the Spirit, or crucifying the self and overcoming sin. If we allow sin to reign in our body, then we are not mature, but enslaved to sin itself. Peter repeats a warning of Hebrews. If we come to Christ and return back to being enslaved to sin, our last state is worse than the first. In fact, it would have been better for them to have not known Christ at all. He who is born of God must overcome the world. It is a sign of maturity. For the promises of God are for those who overcome until the end. Those promises are not for those who are enslaved by sin. Shall we let the Scriptures speak for themselves?